These 16 algorithm secrets helped me crack $1 million in revenue last year on LinkedIn, generate millions in pipeline for my clients, and I guarantee that by implementing these, you'll be able to grow your audience and scale your business way faster on LinkedIn. The first hack is something that if you take advantage of it right now, you can be in the top 1% of LinkedIn creators. And that's creating short form video content on LinkedIn. LinkedIn Shorts is a new update to the platform as of 2024, and it's a great opportunity for businesses to grow their audience faster. And the mechanism behind this opportunity is that social media platforms tend to push new features by giving additional organic reach. The LinkedIn algorithm is pushing it like crazy, and to be completely honest, the content bar for video on LinkedIn is on the floor. It's so low compared to Instagram or TikTok, which are much more sophisticated at this point. So how do you actually do this? Here's how to create viral LinkedIn video that brings in new business for you. You'll want to keep your video somewhere between 30 to 90 seconds, your typical short form video length. You want to have captions for all the folks that are watching the video with no volume. And no, you don't need the cracked out ADHD retention editing to keep people engaged on LinkedIn. It can be simple jump cuts and basic edits. If anything, the audience on LinkedIn prefers those simpler edits. As far as the tech stack I would recommend using to film your videos, I use a Sony ZV-E10, the Shure MV7, highly recommend this mic. And then I also use Aperture lights to get me my lighting. And for editing software, you can use CapCut or Premiere Pro or any of your preferred editing platforms. This isn't going to make or break the video, just pick something and run with it. Now, this second hack is something that a lot of folks are afraid to use, but done correctly, it will make your post perform way better. And that's tapping into polarization. Your brain is literally wired to pay more attention to negative comments and statements and just negativity in general. It was a survival mechanism. Back when humans were cavemen and living in the wild, you had to keep your eye out for threats and things that actually could kill you. Now, in the modern day, for a lot of us, that's not the case anymore, but our brain is still wired that way, and it's wired to pay attention to negativity or problems. And this evolutionary programming is why you should tap into negativity bias and polarization in your content. And polarizing hooks get people to stop the scroll, and this is good for two reasons. One, you get people to actually read your content in the first place. There is so much content on LinkedIn that just blends in and doesn't stand out, and a lot of B2B founders in particular are notorious for this because they're terrified of what their audience and connections are going to think. But this fear keeps you invisible. Your goal with your hook is to get people to click that see more button. LinkedIn only shows the first 100 to 300 characters of your hook. Someone has to click see more to read the entire post. It does not matter how compelling the rest of the post is if someone does not click that button. And the second reason is that because people are clicking into the content, engaging with it, spending more dwell time on the post, the algorithm is going to push it out more. So if you want to grow, you got to be implementing this into your content. Check out this example from Adam Robinson, who's a master at this. The boring version of this hook would be, here's 5 quick tips to find PMF. It's okay, the 5 quick tips listicle format does some work in creating curiosity in the reader, but it's kind of boring. Contrast that to Adam's actual hook where he says, in the past 24 months, I've spoken to hundreds of $0 to $1 million ARR startup founders, and 99% of them are stuck. Here are the 5 biggest mistakes they're making that prevent them from finding product market fit. Notice the word stuck, mistakes, prevent, that all taps into negativity bias. It's not over the top, it's not super extreme, but those subtle inclusions of negativity bias and polarization versus some boring, bland hook improve the performance of the content. And at the end of the day, a lot of founders are scared to tap into this because they don't want to create disagreement on platforms. They don't want to get any hate. And done right, you won't get any real hate, but you might get people debating you in the comments, and that's kind of what you want. So when you do one of these hooks, you don't want to do them every single day. Do like 1 or 2 a week or every other week. Spread it out so you're not just becoming this alarmist negativity bias merchant, and you'll be fine. But this hack definitely has overlap in terms of the type of performance increase you'll see from implementing it. And that hack is creating curation posts where you tag big accounts. Now, why does this work? So tagging bigger accounts in content that paints them in a positive light will get them to engage with your content. And when they engage with your content, so whether it's leaving a comment or just a simple like on the post, LinkedIn is going to amplify your content to their audience. For example, if I was trying to sell software to SaaS sales teams, I might curate a list of 10 different tools you can use to get high quality intent data. I would tag the tools and the founders in that content. And the key is for the mention to be positive. You want to shout these people and these companies out because when you do that, they'll engage because people love to get shouted out and recognized. So just like we're tapping into negativity bias and that's part of our human nature, this desire for recognition is also part of our human nature, and you can use that in your content to drive increased engagement. This post from Michelle Lieben is a great example of curation in action, actually kind of similar to the example I mentioned a few seconds ago, curating 29 data sources to find prospects in any niche. So you'll see he tagged the companies in this post. If we look in the comments, you'll see people adding other recommendations. So this is another phenomenon that will happen, especially in these tech stack or resource posts where people will see the list and then think, oh, oh, I want to shill my own company in the comments or shill another company in the comments. But you see what I mean here? You tag people, you shout them out, they love to see it, they comment, and then the algorithm will boost the performance of your content because of all the engagement that it's getting. Hack number 4 is another slightly controversial one, and some people might be averse to using it. But honestly, that controversy and a little bit of discomfort can only mean it's more potent as a hook. And that hack is to use specific monetary numbers in the hooks of your content. Numbers don't lie. Adding specific monetary numbers and results in the hook is an easy way to add credibility to your content and get people to want to keep reading. For example, posts with the headline, "My $1 million outbound sales funnel," will tend to do better than a post that says, "Hey, here's my sales strategy." They feel more concrete, real, and actionable. Now, in terms of rankings, using specific revenue or profit numbers, so monetary figures, tends to work best, but in a lot of cases, you won't have access to these numbers. And even if you can't use money or monetary figures, you can also use other specific numbers in the hook to drive increased performance. So for example, maybe you don't have a monetary figure for revenue, but you have the pipeline number or leads or demos booked. Or even if you don't have anything that's business related, you can also use numbers like views or other metrics that are specific numbers. I will say though that monetary figures tend to perform best, so try to use those when you can. Another example for you, you post something like, "Last month I made $50,000 in 30 days using LinkedIn content. Here's the 5-step blueprint I used to make it happen." So much more compelling than, "Hey, here's my LinkedIn content strategy." Another real example from Austin Hughes, "I'm revealing how we use Unify, our product, to power $7 million of pipeline and $530,000 of closed-won revenue and counting in 2024. Notice how the specificity makes it compelling and relatable. This next hack is something that if you're not aware of it, it's killing your organic reach without you even realizing it. Avoid linking offsite. The mission of every social media platform is to keep you on the platform. When they keep you on the platform for longer, there's more opportunities to serve you ads, and that's how they make their money. LinkedIn is a bit unique in that they have Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Premium, job listings. They have other ways to monetize. I mean, you even see X doing their premium subscription and stuff like that. But generally, the main business model for social platforms is serving you advertisements. So naturally, the algorithm will deprioritize content that moves people off the platform. Posts with external links get fewer impressions and limited reach. So instead of linking off platform to an article or video, deliver value on platform with social native content. The team at SparkToro refers to this as zero-click content. In other words, content that requires 0 clicks for someone to consume and get the full value from. Instead of trying super hard to drive traffic from your site with every single post, you want to give that value up front and trust that because you're giving that value on social, that content is going to travel farther and that reader or viewer is going to come back for more. And look, something that people recommend doing is adding the link to the comment section. So not putting the link or the URL in the actual post copy itself, but in the comment section. I've heard that this works. To be completely honest with you, I'd be shocked if platforms didn't realize that people were doing this and also deprioritizing posts with that tactic. So I'd recommend just share the value up front. If there's the occasional post where you want to drive traffic, fine. Like for example, I launched my software company. I included a link in that post and it actually did quite well, but I'm not doing that in every single piece of content. That was one in about 100 pieces of content. So for example, I wrote a newsletter article about Beehive's social media strategy. Instead of just posting the link to that on LinkedIn and being like, "Hey, I wrote this, go read it," I made this social native video. So I took the material I talked about in the content and formatted it into a video script, filmed the video because I know, as we talked about earlier, LinkedIn video is performing really well right now. And as you can see, the content did quite well. It got over 100 likes and 20 comments and pretty good engagement considering my baseline for content. And in for hack number 6 is something that the LinkedIn OGs will appreciate, and that's posting hiring content. LinkedIn originated in 2002 as a hiring platform, and as we know, that's still a main focus for the platform today in 2025. And as LinkedIn is a hiring platform, again, one of their main revenue sources is job listings. Because this is the case, the algorithm often boosts content that mentions hiring or team members or company culture. And if you're trying to build a reach on the platform, you want to use this strategically. So if you're building a company, here are a few simple content formats you can try. 1, announce a new hire. So this example from Austin is a perfect representation of that. They just hired a new head of finance, and he wrote up a post highlighting the story behind how they hired him, why they hired him, and the content did quite well. A second example is highlight an employee who's crushing it. So this example from Dorina is a perfect visualization of that. She wrote a post about how her head of partnerships really stood out in the interview process. So kind of similar to post number 1, but instead of a brand new hire, this is highlighting a current employee who's been with you for some time. You'll notice that both these examples have a real life picture of the employee. I'd recommend doing this if you try this content format. Third is a we're hiring post. So people love to comment on these for visibility. And again, LinkedIn is a hiring platform, and a lot of folks are on here looking for work or sharing content with people who are looking for work. So tapping into that with a we're hiring piece of content is a great way to get some easy engagement. And honestly, it's not even just gaming the algorithm. If you're actively trying trying to hire people, posting this stuff is great for attracting qualified candidates. And the fourth format is a hiring hot take or a culture hot take. So for example, if you have a really hard line on remote versus in-person, so if you believe that everyone should be in office, that should be a post that you make, and probably pretty regularly. People are going to engage with that, whether positively agreeing with you or negatively because they think remote work is the future, which I don't disagree, but it's a very polarizing topic, so you can use that in your hiring content to create more visibility. And again, even if you're not hiring at the moment, you can leverage this type of content by posting about your team culture, hires you've made in the past, that type of stuff. Next, we have a hack that not only crushes on LinkedIn, but also on other platforms, whether it be X, YouTube, Instagram, you name it. And it allows you to borrow the credibility and the attention of something that's already happening in the world and parlay that into momentum for your own content. And that hack is called trend jacking. By definition, trend jacking is using a trending moment in your industry in the hook of your content to get people's attention and get them to click see more. This strategy works for two reasons. First, people don't know you, but they might know the event. For example, when the Barbie movie first released, they did a bunch of crazy marketing activations and partnerships, and this was a source of material for a lot of folks on LinkedIn who are writing their commentary and take on the marketing strategy. And just to give a hypothetical example, if you are a marketing agency founder or a marketing tech company founder, that would have been a perfect opportunity for you to ride the momentum that Barbie marketing strategy was seeing and insert your own takes and opinions from your expert experience. You want to use these trending moments and you can insert your own thought leadership and expertise into that content. And the goal with this is to convert those cold readers who haven't seen you before but are only stopping because of the trend jacking content into loyal fans. And you do this by inserting your own unique experiences. It's not enough to comment on news and say, hey, this happened. You have to say, this happened and this is my expert opinion on it. Okay, so how do you execute on this? There's a few steps. Step one is research. You want to sign up for industry newsletters, subscribe to podcasts, follow key influencers on LinkedIn or Twitter, and keep a pulse on what's going on. Step two is ideate. Once you do this, once you have that rotation of content that you're consuming, you want to be doing that every single day. And if you notice there's a specific day or week where a certain story just takes over the timeline or a certain person just takes over the timeline, like that Barbie example was one of them. Another example was Jaguar recently rebranded and everyone on LinkedIn was commenting on it. If you notice those trends start to happen, those are great opportunities for you to hop in. And step three is create. So take that trend, craft a hook around it, and then insert your opinion as the expert as it relates to your field. Just another example, if you're in AI and OpenAI launches something new that has a lot of people talking, like for example, the Sora launch would have been a great example of this. You would use that as the hook and then give your opinion or your take on the topic. One funny example of one of my most viral pieces of content, this is actually on X or Twitter, was a deep dive thread on the Minions movie marketing trend. So this is back in 2021 or 2022 when the Minions movie came out and everyone was wearing suits to the theater. Everyone was talking about it and I saw there was an opportunity to talk about how it took over on TikTok. So I wrote that thread, I posted it, and it got millions of views. Another more recent, more niche example, Ramp is a B2B company who has been killing it on social. I saw that, I've been keeping up with them. Everyone's talking about them in my corner of the internet. So what I did was I made this video going over their social strategy. And it racked up over 200,000 impressions. It got people on the Ramp team commenting, so this is underrated as well. When you do these sorts of highlights or trend jacking content, you'll often get the team from those companies commenting on your content, which if you're selling to people like them, it's a great opportunity to do some lead gen. Now, speaking of trends, this will be a shameless plug, but it's got to be done. I write a newsletter every single week where I share marketing playbooks from companies and startups who are really crushing it right now. So if you want proven frameworks and blueprints from companies who are winning with content so you can just copy it and apply it yourself, just click the first link in the description, subscribe to Social Files, and you'll get the next newsletter that goes out, and a few other bonuses. Now, this eighth hack might come as a bit of a surprise to you if you've been around LinkedIn for a while, because this one thing used to be a really strong format, but it died down for a little bit, and now it's back. That's carousels. The reason this content format works well is pretty simple. Carousels tend to be longer, like multiple slides, so it keeps people on the post for longer. And back in 2020, 2021, they were getting boosted a lot in the algorithm. They kind of died down a bit in 2024, but I'm seeing them come back a lot. I'm seeing my carousels perform better. I'm seeing clients' carousels perform well. And just generally when I'm scrolling the timeline, I'm seeing a lot more of them get recommended to me in feed, which means that the algorithm is prioritizing them. I also noticed they tend to be more evergreen. So the carousels I posted recently, they're not just getting engagement for 2 or 3 days, they're getting engagement for 2 or 3 weeks, which if you know social, you know that content tends to die pretty quickly. So if you can post a content format that gets engagement over a long period of time, I would definitely lean into that. And on top of that, they tend to be very shareable and savable. So carousels are the type of content that B2B founders and C-suite execs are sharing with each other in Slack channels and private group chats. But creating them doesn't have to be hard. It's actually quite simple. What I'd recommend doing is take one of your best performing long long form text posts and turn them into a carousel. You want to have a title slide, a bridge slide. What I recommend for this is usually having some sort of social proof of saying what results you've gotten and why someone should trust you. And then you'll transition to the body slides and finish off with a call to action slide. Hack number 9 is a minor tweak that you can make to your language, but it makes a big impact when it comes to the content performance. And that's to include specific action-oriented words in your hook that position your content as savable. Use power words like blueprint, checklist, guide, playbook, masterclass in your hooks. These position your content as savable. So think about it. Whenever you see something like blueprint or playbook, you think, oh, I'm going to save this for later and refer to this when I'm building out my content strategy. These words promise actionable value, which makes the reader want to click save or bookmark. So instead of writing your hook, here's how to create better content, which is kind of boring, stale. Try writing, here's the 5-step content strategy blueprint that I used to scale my agency from $0 to $1 million in revenue in the past year. Another example, instead of saying, here's how to write a better cold email, try saying, steal the exact cold email template I used to book 53 high quality demos in the past month. And this 10 hack is a no-brainer once you realize how easy it is. Because this one thing can take an okay, pretty good LinkedIn post and make it into a high performer in one simple switch. And that's to have a strong visual hook in your post. Posts with attention-grabbing visuals get a ton more engagement on LinkedIn. A lot of people only rely on text, so they'll just write kind of blog post type posts, which are fine and they perform pretty well on the platform, whether it be, again, those long form posts or even short form text posts can hit quite well, but you're missing a big opportunity if you're not using any visuals in your content. Across our client roster, we're posting about 250 pieces of content per week. Across our roster, we are seeing that on average, posts with media perform better. And there are 3 specific types of visual hooks that I'd recommend try. One, perhaps the easiest, is use IRL photos that are relevant to the topic of the content. And this post from Dorina, founder of OpenPhone, is a great example of that. She talks about how being a new mom changed her approach as a founder, and the picture is a photo of her and her son. And a lot of times you'll have these types of photos laying around as a founder, and one thing I'd recommend doing is trying to take more photos. This is something I'm personally working on because it doesn't come naturally for me, but when you're at offsites, even when you're working your day-to-day, capture simple photos that you can then use in your content. Second type of visual hook that I recommend using is savable infographics and carousel. Those infographics tend to catch someone's attention visually and get them to read the rest of the post. So here's an example from Morgan Ingram. I think this does a really good job of catching attention. This colors stand out, and again, it positions itself as savable. And even if you don't have the ability to create branded infographics, you can just do simple stuff like this, like a Notes app screenshot. I did this post about a tech stack for B2B founders on LinkedIn, and I just put together a quick mock-up in my Notes app, took a screenshot, cropped it a little bit, posted it to LinkedIn, and the content did quite well. Now, the third type of hook is more video specific, and that's to have a title on screen. So when you have a talking head video, you don't want to just rely on the captions. You also want to have a title. So here's an example of that. So looking at this example, you'll notice how the title text says $18 million content playbook. You'll also notice that there's some movement going on in the background. So that video of Tyler, the founder I was highlighting, is kind of zooming in slowly. It just adds a bit of movement. And that second type of video specific hook is going to be just movement in the video. So some sort of zoom in or some sort of cut that gets people engaged. But if you're only relying on text to hook people in, you could do okay, but you're missing a big opportunity. This next hack is another one of those emotional tactics that tends to crush on LinkedIn, and that's positioning content as milestones or announcements. People on LinkedIn love to celebrate other success and share content like this. Think about those posts from college students who get a summer internship and they post something like, I'm so humbled and honored to accept this position at this consulting company that I really don't care about, but I'm pretending to anyway. And everyone just eats it up and comments and engages. You want to tap into that same phenomenon with your content as a founder or marketer. So what you can do is share posts like monthly updates, new case studies, new hire announcements, stuff that positions itself as milestones for your company. So this post from Julio is a great example of like a monthly or quarterly update style of post. So just share something that you've been through as a founder and like what you're up to for that quarter. And positioning case studies as milestones as well tends to do really well. This post from Jesse about Decagon's case study with Duolingo is a perfect example of that. Notice how in the first line, it's thrilled to share this latest case study about our work with Duolingo. He's not just leading with the specific results, which also is important in case studies, but packaging it for social works really well when you position it as a milestone. Those little tweaks in the way that you position your content and the hooks makes a massive difference in the performance. Now, the name of hack number 12 sounds kind of gross, but it actually is one of the strongest hacks that you can implement in your content to improve its performance and get more visibility. And this hack latches on to the credibility of well-known brands, founders, and concepts in your own content. And I call it parasite marketing. The reason this works is obvious. The big names of other well-known founders and entities in your category, or more broadly, function to stop the scroll. This is especially true if you use them in the hook, whether it be your text hook, those first 1 to 3 lines, or your visual hook like we just talked about. For example, you could write your hook as what I learned about sales from Elon Musk, or Sam Sam Altman predicts AGI in 2025. Here's what I really think is happening. Or a more niche reference for my SaaS audience. Here's Jason Lemkin's full LinkedIn content playbook. This immediately captures attention and positions your content as valuable. And again, using the Sam Altman example, it makes you wonder, oh, what does Sam Altman think is happening with AGI? You don't really care about some random guy's opinion, but you'll want to hear what Sam Altman has to say. Now, you might be thinking, wait, this sounds pretty familiar to trendjacking, like we talked about earlier in the video. And I would say I agree, and they actually share a lot of characteristics. The reason why I separated parasite marketing into its own category, its own hack, is because it's evergreen. So when you're doing trendjacking, you're time bound. If the event passes and you miss it, you're kind of screwed. You can't really use it anymore. Like if I made a commentary post about the Barbie marketing strategy and why I thought it was so genius in 2025, it really wouldn't hit the same way that it did the first week after the movie launched. Parasite marketing is evergreen because you can always leverage well-known brands, founders, things that people in your target audience care about, even if there isn't a timely news story around them. This can work really well when you're sharing takeaways from like a book or a podcast that you consume. So here's an example of that. In this post, Adam talks about the takeaways from How to Make a Few Billion Dollars by Brad Jacobs, founder of $7 billion businesses. So notice how he's using Brad's name in the hook, along with the fact, for anyone who doesn't know him, that he was a 7-time billion-dollar founder to capture the reader's attention on LinkedIn. So with Adam in particular and his audience, he's pretty well known. But for anyone that doesn't know Adam, they might know Brad Jacobs, or they might see the fact that Brad founded $7 billion companies and think, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what those takeaways were. Now, this next hack is something that absolutely cranks your engagement and helps cement you as an authority in your category. And really, it's nothing new. It's posting infographics. I know this doesn't sound like some crazy fancy hack, but like everything else in this video, it's a simple tweak that you can make to your content that will improve its performance. Infographics are savable and shareable when you can package your information in a visual way that people can just take a screenshot and send it in a group text or in a Slack message with their marketing team, with their sales team. That's a super powerful lever to pull in your content. Remember, you want to optimize your content for saves and shares. So you can use tools like Canva or Figma to create these infographics. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can bring out the big guns and use Photoshop or Illustrator, but Canva infographics will get you a lot of the way there. And there's two types of infographics you can consider. One is text-based infographics. Notice how I'm more or less just taking the stuff that I talk about in this long form post and packaging the text in a visual format. So someone might not screenshot this entire post, but they can screenshot this sample content calendar and share it with their marketing team if they want to. But there's no crazy illustrations, there's no charts and graphs, it's just packaging that text in a savable format. The second variation is going to be visualizations. This tends to be higher lift, it takes more work, but there also tends to be higher upside here. So text-based infographics are super easy to copy and paste the content you already wrote and just organize it and format it. Visuals require you to think a bit about how would I visually package this information. So this example, Anthony uses the analogy of positioning different types of protein and how you can get very specific with how you describe it and how that translates into positioning for startups. But you notice how he takes the content in the post and packages it into a visually appealing, savable way. But next we have one hack in particular that has potential to really accelerate your audience growth and your business on LinkedIn. Because just like we talked about with parasite marketing a few minutes ago, what this hack allows us to do is use the fact that there are bigger accounts that are ahead of us with a larger, more engaged audience to our advantage. And there's no fancy title for this one. The tip is to build relationships with larger accounts. Because like we've established, when larger accounts engage on your content, whether it's commenting or liking, LinkedIn is going to push your content to their audience. But not only that, their audience will take note of their interactions with you and start to perceive you as a thought leader or authority in their category worth interacting with themselves. And when you look at social growth across accounts, most of the inflection points you see in the momentum of an account come when larger accounts either amplify an individual post or start to engage with their content. For example, back when I first started posting marketing content on social media on LinkedIn and X, two of my now close friends, Alex Garcia and Daniel Murray, had large audiences at the time. They took note of my write-ups and my content. They started engaging. And again, now we're just close friends. But early on, that started because they just saw my content online, thought it was dope, and engaged with it. Now, you want this to happen organically, but how can you accelerate this process? How can you get in front of those bigger accounts and build one-on-one relationships with them in a way that benefits both of you? What I'd recommend doing is create a list of 15 to 30 accounts that would be amazing for you to connect with. Like in your dream world, who would you want to have a relationship with in your industry? And start leaving meaningful comments and engagements on their content. Now, don't use AI for this. Don't use formulaic templated comments. People can tell when you're doing this, and people can tell also when you're just commenting on their content for the sake of getting your own visibility. The key is to be cool. Approach this like you're building a genuine relationship because you are. And then once you start engaging, what I recommend also doing is start moving into the DMs, right? So one way I love to do this, very specific tactic for you, is if you see a specific post that stands out to you, that you really enjoyed, just message them and say, hey, I like this post, or hey, I like this post about X. So you can use this as an entry point into building that one-to-one relationship. And you can just kind of do this sporadically over the course of a few weeks, few months. And what'll start to happen is they'll start to engage back on your content. You might be able to get on a Google Meet or a Zoom call and actually chat with them. What I'd recommend also doing is if you find that these influencers or these people you want to create relationships with are having an event in your city. So for example, I'm in Austin. If someone's doing a coffee meetup in Austin for marketers, I might go to that and start to meet those people in person. So what you have to realize is all the top creators and founders that you follow on social media are often in private group chats and messaging one-to-one. They have these relationships. It's all going on behind the scenes and you want to tap into that. Now, speaking of relationships, number 15 is another true hack. And that's just to have your friends and family or team members or acquaintances engage with content in the first 30 minutes to give it the best chance possible to perform well. LinkedIn's algorithm, like many social platforms, rewards early engagement. So those first 30 to 60 minutes are vital for every piece of content. And when people start to engage early on, it signals the algorithm that, hey, this content's valuable, let's push it out to more people. And once it gets that initial momentum, the algorithm will carry it from there. But what happens a lot of times is founders, especially early on in their content journey, will post, get no engagement early, the post dies, they get super discouraged. So I don't recommend joining any formal engagement pods. I just don't see them work well. But what I am saying is if there is a post in particular that you think has potential to really pop or is really important for your company, go the extra mile and let your network know, hey, just posted this, would love if you go and engage. Here are a few examples of types of posts that I would recommend using this strategy with. Fundraise announcements. If you raise a seed round, Series A, or any fundraise announcement, you want to get your investors, your team, and your friends and family to go and engage on that announcement post in the first 30 to 60 minutes. If there's a big launch, again, if you're launching a product, this is something that you really want to see get momentum, tap into this strategy. And also, if you have a post that you think has potential to go really viral and really pop on LinkedIn, what I'd recommend doing is using the strategy for that content. So you're not going to use it for every single post. People are going to get tired of it. You're going to be annoying. And also it just creates this artificially inflated engagement. So you don't want to build your content and community around that. But for those particular pieces that you really want to see overperform, I'd recommend sending the link to a few people in your network and getting them to help you with that early engagement. And this one final hack is something that I've seen boost impressions and overall content performance quite a bit. And it just requires you clicking a single button, and that's reposting your own content. And I literally mean going to the repost button, clicking it yourself, and reposting your own piece of content. And what this does is it resurfaces that content on the timeline for someone who may have missed it earlier. And LinkedIn will reprioritize it in the feed. So as far as how I'd recommend implementing this, say you have a post, you post it at 9 a.m., you give it a few hours, and then later in the day at say 3 or 4 or 5 p.m., go in and just hit that repost button. Or you could do it the next morning, but give it a few hours. I'd recommend at least 5 to 6 hours between posting and hitting repost. And this is super simple, but you can squeeze a little bit more juice out of the content. And you don't want to do this for every single piece of content like we talked about with the hack we just went through, but you want to pick your spots. So if you have a big launch, fundraising announcement, something that you really want to get traction, or a winning post that you see, oh, people love this, I want to get it in front of more people, that's where you can just use the simple repost hack just to get some more engagement on that content. As a bonus here too, one variation of reposting content is not just hitting that repost button, but also taking a winning piece of content that overperformed for you and literally posting it again 3 months later. What you don't realize is you're growing your audience. And if you're doing this well and effectively, every few months, you'll have a big influx of new followers. So you might have had 5,000 followers 3 months ago, but now you have 8,000. Those 3,000 followers haven't seen a ton of the content that you posted in the past. So if you had a post from a year ago, a year and a half ago that did really well and it's evergreen, you'd be silly not to just repost it again. What I recommend is every 3 months, look back at your winning content and select a few of them to repost. Because in theory, once you have about 3 months worth of content, you have enough to remix and repost that for the rest of your life. Like I'm confident at this point that if I created nothing new, I'd have enough content to last me forever. And while reposting your winning content using super polarizing hooks and all the other hacks in this video are great, I haven't really covered what a fully built out content strategy looks like. These are more simple one-off hacks that you could use to improve your content performance right away. But click here to check out the next video where I reveal the best content strategy that you can use right now so you can just copy it and create content the right way right out the gate, grow your audience and scale your business. So I'll see you over there.